click record so I don't forget. So the first time that I heard Craig Holiday, I was in a coach training group. So it was one of my very first coach training groups. I had no idea what I was doing as a coach. I didn't understand really what Emerald was. I knew it was something you wanted to work towards, but I didn't really know what it all meant. And I listened to this call, and at the time, it was suggested that we do this personal development. And I didn't think much of it. I didn't really think that it mattered that much. But I had picked up the book, The Slight Edge. And while I was reading that book, I also got onto this call. And I remember thinking that Craig Holiday kept talking about this idea of DNA, this determined natural ambition, right? And I just kept thinking, like, I want to have that. I think I have that. I might have that. I think I could actually have that and be really good at this. And it took a lot of listening and re-listening to this call for me to finally be like, yeah, I got this. I totally got this. So with that sort of being said, let's go ahead and talk about that DNA, that determined natural ambition, right? So he talks about the concept of working this determined natural ambition hard for 90 days. So, there's programs, there's your P90X. If you do P90X for 90 days and you stick to it, you're going to get results. If you stick to what Craig Holiday gives you into these calls, you are going to get results into your business. Have you ever found that often when you're in this business, it runs so much and so parallel to your fitness as well? So when you're talking to your challengers about things that they need to do and how to motivate them and how to inspire them, it's very parallel to your business, right? So when you're on track with your fitness, chances are you start to see your business thrive. And they're connected because they're so much ingrained in the mental piece of it. This business is as much mental as it is actually doing the work. It's that idea of just believing and going for what you want. It's that idea that you are going to meet your goal no matter what. It's the idea that if you set the goal and have the goal in your head about what you want to be able to achieve, there's no doubt in your mind that you're going to be able to do it. But what holds us back, the biggest thing that holds us back is ourselves. It's that idea that, well, what if I fail? What if I can't do this? What if somebody's better than me? What if someone moves faster than me? What if I really ask my 10 best friends, the only people I can think of, and every single one of them say no? And that fear just instills in our head and it messes with our mind. And then all of a sudden, all of that belief goes down the crapshoot. It's gone. All of a sudden we stop believing. We have a tough month. I'm thinking in March, right? So many of us, we nailed February. We were like, cup challenge, this is awesome. And then we get into March and it's like, we have to rebuild ourselves back up. Or, maybe we've been shooting for a certain rank and all of a sudden, we just can't seem to, no matter how we spin our wheels, we just can't seem to do it. So one of the things that he talked about on that call that really hit home to me is the idea of a commitment start date. He asked on the call, he said on that call, he said, what if you really worked your business for 90 days? The hardest you ever did. Do you remember in The Compound Effect, if those of you who have read it, I'm not sure if everybody has read it on this call, but in The Compound Effect, do you remember that part where they talk about there being two buildings, right? And there's this tightrope in between those two buildings. And someone says, I'll pay you a couple bucks if you walk across that. And you go, you're nuts. I wouldn't do that. That's crazy. No way. And then they go, all right, I get that. Yeah, this is kind of nuts. But what if the motivation and your why and your reason all of a sudden changes because now your children are on the other side. Your children are there and it's burning. You wouldn't think twice about it. You would do it. Your fear would be gone because you cared so much about that goal. You cared so much about getting over there. The motivation is totally different. you almost have to think of the business sometimes as, I'm going to work this for 90 days. Like I cannot fail. Like there is no choice but to get to that other building because my children are at that side of the building and they need me. What if you ran your business like that for 90 days? If you went hard for 90 days, if you said to yourself, I'm not going to fail at this. I'm not going to fail at this because I don't have a choice. There is no other choice. I have to do this. So there's 5 ways to do this. The first, and I'm going to have you leave it blank. It says your 90-day commitment. And the reason I want you to leave it blank is because I don't want you to just write today's date because I'm saying to write today's date. I want it to be the date that you decide I am committed. I am going to run this business like I cannot fail this business. Like it is the burning building on the other side. And if you run this business just like that, you're going to absolutely be successful. Are you going to have failures along the way? Yeah, absolutely. But are you going to care? No. Because if you truly look at your business like that, you will be successful because you have no other choice than to be successful. So let's talk about the 5 W's that we're going to do to get there. You guys hear me talk about, I preach about, I talk about all the time is your why, right? So when we came into coaching, how many of us from the get-go said, well, why are you a coach? And we said, because I just want to help people. Like all of us said that, right? We just want to help people, but we got to do more than that. We've really got to dig a little bit deeper. On that form, I left it blank. You need to really have that question to yourself and ask yourself, do I really have a why? Do I really have a reason? Am I being honest with myself about my reason? Am I telling myself the truthful reason about why I want to be successful? Because that why is what pulls you through the hard times. That why is always what carries you. It's what pulls you back. The why is what, when it gets tough, you just keep going. One thing that he said on the call is, when you're working for someone, and I think about this in education all the time, right? You're paid what they can pay you, the minimum that they can pay you that you're still going to work, right? So I was in education for a long time and I loved my job. It had nothing to do with my job, but there was a lot of truth to that. I'm not getting paid what I believe my worth to be. And that was okay because that's what I signed up for. This isn't that kind of job. I almost look at this, and I know that Kirsten and I have had these conversations before. It's almost like this is an internship, like a very minimum paying internship where you work for a couple of years really hard and then you see the benefit of it. But what happens is most people, they don't see the benefit right away, right? So they stop. Because that's what we are. We are this society where we want that quick fix. We want that instant gratification. We want it right away. We want to be successful right away. We want to be a top coach right away. We want to make sure that we're making $1,000 a week right away. But when we're not seeing that quick enough, we pull back. And all of a sudden, you know what else goes with that is that sense of belief. Our why is kind of pulled back. All of that is gone because we're so focused on right now, on what we want instantly, what we want immediately. Kirsten, I know you can touch on this because this is definitely something that you talk a lot about. Do you want to chime in there?
On the why part or getting paid your worth? Which part? What do you mean?
Why don't you talk a little bit about your why?
Yeah. So I think, like what Katie's saying, going back to getting paid your worth, I think that why, in this business, you have to have that vision, that it's a vision and belief, but it's that why that drives you. So for me, my why became freedom, and it was hard days. There were days when I was working 40 hours a week, and then I was putting in every extra moment I had with Beachbody. But what happened is that why became so big that nothing else was able to stand in the way of it. Like it was just I know that I can do this. I'm going to keep going. It just takes time. So if you can connect with that and you can continue to believe in that, and there were times where I had to reach to my upline, Katie, and be reminded of my why and be reminded of my belief, then I could keep going. So I think the other thing to remember is that it's okay for your why to change. My why started as just accountability for me personally, because I struggled for a long time with just self-esteem issues and eating disordered issues and staying on track and accountability. And if I was helping someone else, it was helping me. But then after, seeing the business, it turned into something else. So I think it's important too for you guys to constantly be reevaluating your why. And, your why is personal to you. It's not what your coach wants. It's not what your husband wants or your spouse or whoever. It's what you want. And when it reaches and touches your heart so personally, you won't ever give up on it. So
it's true. And you have to have it, and nobody else can find it for you. And your story, and that's where your story and where it becomes easier to post and to talk, because you are so kind of captured in what your reason is, what your motivating factor is, and what is driving you to be successful. It does change over time. In the last 2 years, I've watched Kirsten as a coach change and be in these transitions of her life. You're going to have those same things. So you have to reevaluate your why. You have to really think, well, what is going to carry me through the hard times? It's always going to go back to the why. The second, so tonight, I want you to think about that, and I want you to dig a little deeper, because your why cannot be because I want to help people. Because if it is, you aren't going to get further in this business because it's not deep enough. Everybody who is on this team wants to help people. I mean, that's who we are. That's why you're attracted to whoever your upline coach is, because they help people. That's fine. You can help people by, bagging groceries or helping an old lady across the street. But you need to think a little deeper than, I want to help people. What is your real reason for being here? Why are you on this team in this multi-level marketing company as opposed to any of the number of other ones that are out there? Why are you here? The second one that he talked about is one that scares me and I struggle with, and that is that when. And Craig Holiday is so freaking honest about it, and he does not accept it to just be less than your very best, right? That is when you are actually putting a measurable date on your goals. I can't even tell you how many people I have worked with over the last 2.5 years that have set a date, forgotten about the date, or they set it so far in advance that you go, yeah, you can do that. So if you're setting, for example, an Emerald date that's in September of this year, guys, we got to talk. That's not going to work. You can if you want to be an Emerald coach, you can do it tomorrow. I mean, that's the honest to gosh truth. Diamond coach, you have to set that date. If that's what you're looking for, if you want to rank advance and it's part of your why and the reason you want to be a diamond coach, you have got to set that date, and you have to say to yourself, no, I am not resting until this date happens. Whatever your goal is. If your goal is to pay for your kid, your groceries for the week, what is it going to take for you to get there? What does that look like to you? It doesn't matter if it's a rank tie, but it has to be something, a goal, a tangible goal that has an actual deadline. Why? Because if you have it, it is at the forefront of your mind. It is something that you are shooting for. It is something that that you are reminded of constantly. This is something I play safe all the time, and my diamond coaches know this about me. I don't tend to talk about my goals very publicly. I don't tend to really want to talk about them because I still find myself, until I go back to these calls, thinking of the idea of failure. I think about, well, what if I don't do it? Or what if I can't quite get there? Or, I'm really struggling with this month, and I don't know if I really want to come out and say that. So I listened to this call, and I finally was like, Katie, you can't expect your coaches to set deadlines on their goals if you're not going to do it. So what did I do? I sat down and I told my success partner, I told my mentor coach, and I told Kim Carver, who works for corporate, what my goal is, what my date is, and then I wrote it in big letters up. I don't know if you can see it. It's up there. And then I put it in my bathroom too, because that number is important to me. That is something that's going to drive me. And every day, if I'm looking at it, I don't have any other choice but to go for it. Because if you want something so bad and it's in front of you all the time, you're going to go for it. This is my goal though. But what is yours? What is your goal? Is your goal a rank? Is your goal a commission? Is your goal recruiting a certain number of people? Is your goal to retire your husband? Is your goal to have freedom so you can, today we went to the mall randomly on a Monday afternoon for no reason. Is that your goal? You have to know what it is, and you have to put a deadline to it. So on the worksheet where you see that, go back to your why, and then you have to say, am I saying someday? Am I saying someday to myself? Am I going to actually go for something? Am I going to try to 100% commit to achieving this goal? Am I going to go for it, or am I going to play it safe and not put the date? Because if you're playing it safe and you're not putting a date to it, you're not going to achieve it, because it's not connected to the why. You have to put a deadline on it. And then you got to take it one step further, and you've got to put that deadline in front of you everywhere. My mentor, again, and this is what made me think of doing this, but he is turning 40, and he is trying to get in the best shape of his life. And so he is determined. I think it's like right now he's trying to lose like 30 pounds. So that number 40 is in his head. He's turning 40. So he put that number everywhere. He put it in his rear view mirror. He put it in his mirror at home. So it reminds him every day, instead of eating that pizza, I'm going to be 40. I want to look my best at 40. I want to be my healthiest at 40. I want my wife to find me the most attractive when I'm 40. His goal is in front of him every day, all the time, staring at him. If you have a goal that big, it has got to stare you in the face to the point where it's just like tattooed across your forehead because you want it so bad. Make sense? Do you guys have goals like that? But are you afraid to write them down? Are you afraid to say them? Like, I'm thinking about my own coaches right now, and I'm like, they're talking a little bit about rank. They're talking a little bit about what they want, but it's really someday. It's not really one that's really close, and it's not really one that I can really be on them right now about. If you have a big goal, you have to set these kind of benchmarks along the way. It's kind of the same as teaching. If we have an objective, if we have for a student to reach, if we want them to be able to achieve the goal, if it's a long-term goal and it's something that we want them to achieve by the end of the year, well, the whole year, I can't just say, they're going to know their plot diagram by the end of the year. They'll have that figured out. They'll know how to do that. Instead, I have to talk about what are the things they're going to do along the way to be able to achieve that goal. It's the same with the business. It's the same exact thing. If you have a goal of being a 5-star elite coach, what are you doing today to make that happen? Who are you working with now? How many are you recruiting a month in order to make that happen? How many coaches are you helping get to Success Club each month to make it happen? Make sense? All right, so the next point is the work. I am not going to ask you to share this, but I want you to look at your paper, and I want you to give yourself honest feedback. How did you do the last 90 days of your business? how would you rank yourself? How would you rate yourself? Do you feel like you worked your hardest? And I'm not talking about success or failure. I'm not talking about, where you are now, having frustrating days or being a tough month. I am saying, like, if you look back at the last 90 days of your business, can you honestly say, man, I gave it. I couldn't do a fingernail better. I could not have done any better. I can't say it. I can't look at any of you and say there is no way I could have done it better. But what he does talk about is looking back at that and evaluating it. Like, what would you work differently? If you look back at those 90 days, what would you do differently? Where would you make your changes? What changes would you make? And then calling yourself to action and saying, this is what I would be able to achieve. So on that worksheet where it says, how do you evaluate your last 90 days of the business? Be honest with yourself. Be truthful with yourself. This is what I need to change. This is what I need to do. I struggle in this area. Well, how can I make myself better? Do the research. Are you using the tools that are given to you now in the leadership ladder? I've got to tell you, if you guys haven't been to the back office and checked out the training section, they have done a fantastic job of really making it very clear how to follow, what to do at a specific point in your business. So if you're just getting started, they give you specifics on what you need to do. If you are an emerald coach, they give you specifics about what you can be focusing on there. If you're a star diamond or a 2-star diamond, they're giving you specifics there as well. He talks too about just, getting off the bench and getting in the game. You might be watching what other people are doing and, you're looking around you and you're looking at Facebook and you're scrolling through your newsfeed and you're seeing what everybody else is doing. But where are you? You have to get those blinders on. And I know I keep talking about those blinders, but you got to get them on. What are you going to do today that's going to bring you success tomorrow? What are some changes that you can make to make your business better? So the next part he talked about was your 10 in the business. And he says, these are the 10 things that I need to do every day in my business. And I can't go to bed until those 10 are done. He's so powerful when he talks about that in the call. He says, if you go to bed and you did 8 of the 10, you failed. If you go to bed and you did 9 of the 10, you failed. If you go to bed and you did all 10 of them, sleep tight, you won the day. Do you have a list of 10 things that you do every day for the business? If you don't, you need to get one. What are those 10 things? Is it inviting? And if it's inviting, what is inviting to you? For someone like Allison, it might be she's inviting 5 people. For someone like Danielle, it might be she's inviting 10 people, and I don't know, but you need to be specific with yourself. Set the bar high for yourself and say, this is what I need to do every day. You're on this call, and not just by chance. It's because you have that drive to be able to do it. But sometimes we get so distracted by everything else. We just need to remember that we need to make the choice. We need to be able to make that choice to say, I have the DNA. I just need to focus in on my skills. I need to focus in on really working and getting down to work and not making excuses for whether I'm going to achieve my goal or not. End of the month, Success Club, gotta do it. It's just something that you do in this business. It is just, I can tell you, it is that one thing that is my number one. I don't miss it. I do not miss it. And that is me. That is personally what I have decided in my business. I won't miss Success Club 10. That is personally what I do. Is that the same for you? I don't know. I'm not sure, but I do know that is so in my head. There is no way I can fail at that because I have made that so public. I make that so known. It's just non-negotiable. But if you don't have those yet in your head about what you need to do, what success looks like to you, whether it's Success Club or not, doesn't matter. but what is it in your mind that you know, no matter what, at the end of the day, you don't go to bed until you know you've succeeded at? 10 minutes of personal development, following up with your challengers, checking your email, whatever those 10 things are. And I can put a list together too for you guys of what my 10 are. You just make that choice that you don't go to bed unless it's done. You think of that burning building again, right? You go back to that. It's very different when the motivating factor isn't there. It connects back to your why. And I think that this is like one of the first calls where I've come off as so, I don't know if I'm like being very assertive, and I don't mean to be mean, but I am telling you this because I want you to be successful at this. And I believe you can be successful at this. But I also know there are some things that you need to do. And one of them is putting some skin in the game. And you're saying to yourself, I can do this. I can, but I've got to be honest with myself. I need to tell myself, you know what? Am I doing everything I could in order to be successful? That is absolutely essential, I think. Kirsten, do you want to unplug it and then go over wisdom? You can also touch on what I kind of went over.
Okay, cool. Yeah, Katie, there were some questions in the note section, and I'd be more than happy to share.
Cool.
I don't have a continuing 10 list that I can't say that I'm committed to that, but it is something that I want to be committed to. So it is similar to the Power Hour. I think when I think about it in my head, it's something that I try to do every day, but I think where I fall short is I don't evaluate myself every day before the end of the day, because it goes back to that, well, if I don't evaluate myself, then I don't really know if I failed or not. So, but to be honest, it's kind of funny if you think about it, you will sleep better at night. I mean, I know for me, and I know Katie can, second this, and I'm sure a lot of other people, this business is on my mind most of the time. And I think that if we do a better job of, outlining these specific tasks, like he's saying, getting them done, you'll sleep easy and you'll live a little easier too, because you'll know that you gave it your best. I think a lot of times the reason why we have anxiety and stresses is because we knew that we didn't give it our best. So
yeah,
it's something to think about.
And Kirsten, just to touch on that too, before you start on the next point, if you have a planner or something, one of the best ways for you to kind of check off mentally if you won the day, so to speak, if you met all those goals, is to actually look at your planner and check off everything that you accomplished, and then just really quickly write down what you know you want to be able to achieve the next day. So for example, tomorrow I am giving a business opportunity call, and I talked about it a little bit in the KB. If you didn't see that, you're more than welcome to invite to it. But I have to, check over my slides. So I write that down before I go to bed, and I know that I need to do it. And then the next night when I go to bed, I can check that off. That's one of the 10 things that I needed to accomplish. That gives you that sense of satisfaction too, that I did what I was supposed to do. That was a goal I set. It's a little goal, but I needed to do it. And you're just constantly checking it off. And then you kind of, you get your brain ready for the next day by writing things down before you go to bed. It's just one of those little things, like just the littlest thing that you can do. So you can feel that relief when you're doing those things and you're not feeling the stress all the time. That was such a good point too, Kirsten. That was really good. You nailed it.
So the next point that he talks about is wisdom. And this is a couple things that I really like that he said in there, but he just is like, and this is just so true. And you need to tell yourself this, and you need to tell your downline. And I know we're all very nice people and we don't want to give tough love and whatever, but it's like, who cares if people say no, and stop worrying about it? Because you can give, and I love that he said this, and it's so true, you can give the best presentation to the wrong person and they won't get it. You can give the worst presentation to the right person and they will get it. And that's kind of the thing about this business. And Katie and I talk about that a lot. And that's really what he's talking about, is that DNA. And Katie says that I didn't recognize I had the DNA she didn't recognize it, but she always had it because she never gave up on it, because she always knew the bigger picture. She always saw the bigger picture. So, I mean, it's really just so true. We get so down. Like, you know, he says like, well, I asked 5 people today and, you know, I feel bad because then I'm down because they said no. And he's like, well, why are you down? Stop being down. That's stupid. You know, I mean, that's basically what he's saying. Like, you have like the best opportunity in front of you. So stop it. Like, why I forget how he said it. He said, why are you down? That's not where you want to be.
Yeah.
And it's just funny, you know, and it's so true. And I think about that a lot because we do that to ourselves. We get down. And he said, you know, the other thing is quit needing someone else's approval for your dream. You know, people's opinions aren't going to pay your bills. I love that. And that's that's kind of the same idea, is that you don't need someone else's approval for your dream. If I would have let the opinions of others influence my decisions with this business, I wouldn't be sitting here. And I thank God every day that I made the decisions based on what I wanted and not what I thought someone else thought I should want or do. So just keep that in your mind. But when he talks about wisdom, he talks about 2 things: time management and removing the emotion. But time management, and he has another separate call on this. Again, I have listened to about 6 times, so I'm not going to go into this too much. But basically, you know, you say you don't have time, that's bullshit. Like, you have time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day. Katie has 24 hours in a day. Melanie has 24 hours in a day. Lindsay Matway has 24 hours in a day. These top coaches have the same amount of time that you do, but what are you doing with your time? Many people are time wasters. We're just really good at that. It's really easy to waste time scrolling through Facebook. And when you say, you know, I don't have time, you're basically saying I don't manage my time well. I have poor time management skills. And in this call, again, highly recommend you guys get on it. But what he talks about, and I think about this all the time, not just from a business level, but from a personal level, is, are you present where you are? In this day in society, everybody is connected to their cell phones, right? How many times have you been somewhere and everybody in the room is staring at their phone? I live out of town, so when I spend time with my family, I really try to do my best to be present there, because what is the point? You know, when you have kids and you're at their game, like, you need to be present. And that's why you need to master your calendar, because you need to be present when you're doing Beachbody. You need to be present when you're spending time with your kids. You need to be present when you're with your spouse. And the only reason, I mean, he says this, and I think about this too all the time, is that if you do not manage your calendar, you will not be successful in this business, because it's impossible. And for females, I'm sure you've all felt this. I feel this way all the time. We're always feeling guilty. Like, oh, I was here and, you know, I spent all this time with my family, but I didn't spend enough time on Beachbody. And then I was on Beachbody and I didn't spend enough time with my family. And if you set that expectation for yourself and your family and say, listen, you know, this is my time with you. This is my time to work. This is my time to be with my husband or my spouse. I mean, they will appreciate that you gave them that time, and they will respect your time when you're coaching and respect your time. And your kids will remember that you sat there and watched their ball game instead of sitting on your cell phone. Believe me, kids, I mean, they're paying attention, they're watching you, and you, I mean, as an individual yourself, I'm sure if your, let's say, boyfriend or husband is sitting there on his cell phone and together you're watching TV, you don't feel like he's there with you. Even though you're both sitting there and you'd be staring at the TV, he's still not there. So it's really important to manage your time. And the second thing he talks about is take the emotion out of it. Again, don't get so hung up on, you know, what the no is making you feel. And what does he say? Oh, when you don't feel like it, just freaking do it. Yeah. So the wisdom that we have in this company, we are so different than any other company, network marketing, is that your upline and the support that you have and the third party training tools that you have available, that is what is going to give you the wisdom to be successful in this business. It takes time to build a business, and it takes time to gain the wisdom and knowledge. But once you do that, it's easier to take out the emotion. So, you have team calls that you can plug into every single week, getting on those, enrolling in a coach training academy. Once you finish coach training academy, rolling on to the next group. The national wake up calls. You have 3, I don't know how many years of wake up calls every single week of history that you can listen to. And, in no other business do the people that went before you and that are successful want you to be just as successful. If you were in another small business and you are competing, your competitors are not going to help you because you're going to take business from them. But your mentor, your upline, your team, they're not your competitors. Yeah, I mean, you may share friends and stuff like that, but your upline, they want you to be successful because they're going to be successful if you're successful. So, it's one of those things too, like swallow your pride, ask for help, engage in what the resources are available to you. And be accountable to them. Like, there's really no reason that you can't succeed in this business. There is so much opportunity for you to learn. I mean, just from the corporate side, but we are on the number 1 team in the business. So everything that we have available to us works. It's just a matter of taking that and applying that. And the last point he says is when, what is this business to you? And he says, this business is not about you. It's about others. And if you can start looking at it that way, you will start giving more of yourself and so much more will come to you. So we can apply that, when we talk about Success Club, and we can talk about, it's a point for us so we can get a prize or we can get a lead. But really it's a person, and it's more about how many, what 5 people can I help this month? What 10 people can I help this month? It's a benchmark to measure yourself. But again, waking up every single day and saying, how can I inspire someone today? How can I bless someone today? And the more you bless, the more you will receive. And it really just happens. And that is, our mission of this company is to help others and to share the dream of what this opportunity is that we have in front of us. I mean, he says there's going to be people that aren't around in 10 years because of disease that you have the opportunity to help prevent. There are going to be people around, that aren't going to be around because they refuse to give up. They stopped dreaming. They stopped living their life. And they just gave up on life because they didn't understand the other opportunities that were available to them. You have that opportunity to share with them. And he talks about, think about this. And these are just some questions that Katie put on this study guide for you to really think about. Like, what is this business about to you? And, don't look at this like, you have to answer it the way he says. It's a time for you. I think these calls, and I love this outline because it's really a time for you to look at these questions and reflect and draw a line. You draw a line and say, you know what? This business was about me. This business was about how much money I can make. Yes, it will give you financial freedom, but you have to make it about others. Do you have a mission to help others? What is your mission? I love that. Katie's mission, hers has definitely changed over time. She has a mission to share her struggle with others that are going through what she's going through. Taylor, she has a mission. She's sweating for joy. She wants to help people and raise money and fundraising. What is your mission with what you want this business to be? And he says, I think this is pretty funny. Does the taste of average make you sick? And I looked at that and he says that. I'm like, geez, that's kind of harsh. But, he's just making a point. He's like, why do you want to be average? There's no reason, average people don't do great things, But all it takes to not be average is just the choice not to be average. So just because someone told you from your childhood that you weren't good enough, you know, the past doesn't matter. And that's one thing about this business is it's not about where you've been. It's always about where do you want to go. No one cares about your past. Your past is going to help you because it's created you and your experience and your stories and your wisdom that you can share with people. But in this business, I mean, how many of you have signed up a coach and asked them what happened to you in your past and said, well, you know, your past, this isn't going to work. No, you look at them now and you're like, this is where you are. This is where you can go. Where do you want to go? And it's all about that forward thinking, which I think is so cool because so many times we dwell on our past. Well, we failed in the past, so we can't do this. Well, this is different. Draw that line in the sand and decide today that, you know, I'm not going to be average. And the way to do that is to just own it, own your life, own yourself, evaluate yourself on a daily basis. You know, what have you done today? The past doesn't matter, but today does. You know, the way you live your life or the way you live your days is the way you live your life. And it goes back to, you know, the way you live your minutes is the way you live your hours, and the hours is how you live your day, and your day is how you live your life. And it's really, life flies by so fast, and you think about that, and it's kind of scary to think that, you know, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'll be better tomorrow, or someday. And it's like, someday doesn't exist, but that someday is going to get to the point where you look back and say, what did I do? And, you know, I love when he says, you know, your regrets are way more painful than any struggle you'll ever have. So, you know, stop building someone else's dream. You know, I think about that a lot now that I'm not working full time, is that like, I'm not working for someone else for their dream. I'm building my own dream and my own life for my family. And if you are stuck in that cubicle or in that job, you know, you have an opportunity in front of you and you have the tools. I mean, you can take this call alone and change your business today if you apply everything that you have heard in this call and with us and with Craig Holiday. And just remember that, you know, you guys are on this call, right? So you see that this is important. You have been in this business. You have the DNA. Don't question that. If you got into this business and you said, you know, someday, some way, I'm going to make a difference. If you've had that in your gut, you have it. And don't listen to Katie when she was like, I didn't have it. Don't second guess yourself, because you're here. You're still doing this. You know, at the beginning of this business, we work a lot for a little. You know, it's an internship. But let me tell you, like, I message Katie all the time. Thank God I didn't give up. Like, is this really happening? Is this really happening? And time, it just takes time. You know, if you work your hardest for 90 days, you can build a six-figure income in 90 days. You may not get paid six figures in 90 days, but you have built the foundation of a business that will be a six-figure business that you created because you worked the hardest. I mean, what other job out there? There is no other opportunity like we have right in front of us. Everybody needs health and fitness. Not everybody needs to buy a house. Not everybody needs, I don't know, I can't think of another example, but, you know, different sales things. Not everybody needs that, but everybody needs their health. And if you don't have your health, you don't really have anything. And it's the truth. I mean, I know Katie at a scary point in her life can say that when you get a phone call like that, nothing else matters at that point, right? I mean, it's like, holy shit. That's what you focus on. So if you can prevent someone from a lifestyle, you know, a disease that's caused by lifestyle decisions, you can help people. So just always remember, you know, forget about the people that are saying no, and remember that you're on a bigger mission here. And you guys are all here. You're all part of this team. You all have the DNA. You all do. Because if you didn't, you wouldn't be on this call. So I don't know. I think that's it. Let me see. The last thing, just leave you guys with this, and this is what he leaves you with on the call, is that if you knew you couldn't fail, how big would you dream? Do you think about that? Because honestly, the reason why people don't work or commit is because they're afraid of failure. But what if you couldn't fail? You know, what would you do today if you knew you couldn't fail? So that's all I have. If anybody has any questions or comments or another takeaway that they got from the call if they listened to it.
Yeah, I definitely want to hear what you guys think, but I definitely want to hear, like, are you ready to commit? Can you commit to 90 days? Like, if you looked at it just like a P90X workout and you said, I'm going to give this 100%, I'm not going to make excuses. I'm going to do more than just the bare minimum because my dream is so big. You will lay the foundation of a very solid business. But it's like, you have to believe it before you ever see it actually come to fruition. You have to believe it. And when I say believe, it's like, oh yeah, I believe it. I saw Katie did it, or I saw Kirsten did it, and they're really successful, so it must work. It's like, you have to believe that you have it, that you're going to do it, that there's no question about it, that it's going to be done, no doubt in your mind. And then you have to start getting real with yourself and giving yourself deadlines. Control the controllable, but there has to be some skin in the game. For sure. What questions do you guys have for Kirsten and I? Are you guys just like kind of thinking about the call? Like, what's going on in your heads? You guys, this is a very like stoic group tonight. You guys just have a lot on your minds.
I'm trying to go through the chat here to see if there was anything.
And yes, I'll write down what my 10 are that I do every day. The other thing is, like, I start my day, and this has made a difference. I start my day every day with personal development because I'm a blue. And if you don't know what that means, it's like, if you're new to the team, like, that's that personality test. So I am very emotional. Like, I get very connected to my people. Relationships are very important to me. So every day I start my morning with, The Confident Woman by Joyce Meyer, and it's a devotional, and I read it every morning. It takes me 2 minutes. And then my other personal development I do when it fits, like when it works into my schedule. But starting my morning off right, in a good frame of mind, is just as important to me as a workout. For real.
Taylor, when you get a no, do you die? I think sometimes you just need to, you don't die, no.
I said no, but no one probably heard me.
Does it hurt?
It's not as bad anymore. It's getting better.
I wish I've done a better job of tracking and keeping percentages of my no's that became people, became challengers and coaches. Every single one of my coaches said no. Successful coaches said no multiple times. And I said, okay. And then they just kept watching me, and they just kept posting, and it's hard. I mean, that's the hardest thing I think about this business is you're so afraid of the no that it stops you, or you assume that they're going to say no and you make them already object to it. But
or they sign with somebody else because you just assume that's happening.
Yeah, I know about that.
But yeah, I don't know, Taylor, it really is like that. You just have to remove the emotional piece of it. You know, I think it's Michael Lee who talks about, like, when she's getting ready to ask someone, it was like just this really good idea, is she puts on like this pump up song, like this jam that she's like, I've got this good stuff going on. Like, this is a blessing. Like I am actually giving someone like an answer, like an unanswered prayer. Like I am basically saying, you potentially could have all your prayers answered by saying yes to this. And if they say no, that's not on me. Like I did everything that I needed to do, and I gave them the opportunity. That's on them. Like and it stinks sometimes because you want other people to want it so bad, but then you're starting to say to yourself, it's like, I need approval for my dream. You don't need approval for your dream. You don't.
Mm-mm.
At all.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing too is that think about it in just terms of like saving lives, yeah, maybe that person said no, but maybe maybe eventually you'll save their sister's life, or, that there's going to be this connection there. If you make it deeper, if you make your why a little bit deeper, to what you can do for someone else. And I think that sometimes we all get caught up in the points and the personal volume and just hearing a yes and just getting invites out there. But, that's why listening to Craig and listening to Carl, because when you step back and because they really reiterate how you are changing someone's life. And you just have to reflect on your own life. Where were you a year ago or 6 months ago from now? I'm a totally different person than I was when I started coaching, in a great way, in a positive way. My outlook on life is different. And I'm sure that most of you can all say the same thing. So don't you want to give other people the opportunity to feel as great as you do? Right. And they may not be ready to feel that way, but you just eventually have to kind of get over that. And you will.
You know what the other thing is too, we didn't really talk too much about on the call, but he does say, like, do you know your sweet spot? And this is the hardest thing for some people to identify, but the sweet spot is like, what is it that keeps you up at night and makes you jump out of bed in the morning? What excites you? How does that connect to the business? How can you put those together? For me, it's fundraising. I am beyond passionate about it. The fact that I look at Instagram and see hashtag every sweat matters and 1,000. I think we just hit 1,000 posts. That is freaking amazing. Like mind blowing to me that happened. And that is the kind of thing that makes me so excited. But Beachbody connected to that. It's not my income. It's not, what I'm doing, but it's my sweet spot. It is something that makes me feel like my cup is full. What is it that fills your cup, and how can Beachbody help you fill that cup? What is it that you love, that makes you happy, that puts a smile on your face, that makes you feel genuinely good? And I can tell you, it's not $1. I mean, if you're on this team, the money's nice, but that's not your sweet spot. It's all the other stuff that having money allows you to be able to do. Because I know if I was teaching full time, I would not be raising at least $50,000, if not $100,000 for the LLS. And that is my sweet spot. Just think about those kind of things. That is where your why is. When you can say, this is what makes me happy, and this is how Beachbody can help me get to that sweet spot. Does that make sense? Because you have to have a sweet spot, and it is not money. You can't roll around in money and say, I love money, I love money, I love money, I love money. You can, I guess.
Well, you'll just always want more. You'll never be satisfied with it. I think for me, this is just kind of another example, is fit clubs and like just live fitness for me. I got certified to be a teacher, and it was the best class I ever took. I had a little surprise, so I didn't get the chance to start teaching yet, but it will happen. And I just was talking to my fiance about this, and it kind of revisited that sweet spot, like Katie was saying, that's my sweet spot, is being in front of people and getting people moving and helping people to work out. Fitness is my thing. That's my jam. Like the clean eating and all that stuff is not, I'm not a cook. I don't enjoy the recipes, that kind of stuff, but fitness is my thing. So, but if cooking and that kind of thing, if that's your thing, that's your sweet spot, and utilize that to, work your business. And this call is just, it's so wonderful it's time for you to start asking yourself these questions, and you find your sweet spot, because it's that thing that you're just like, it just drives you. It's just this internal, like, oh, I love this. This is so awesome. This is so great. I want to do more. I want to do more. And if you guys need help finding that, you can reach to your upline or anybody on the team. It could be something, Michaeline Havrilla, her sweet spot's the 21-day fix. I mean, that's just her thing. So it's just a matter of really digging a little bit deeper and, commit and be accountable. And that's the biggest thing, is just be accountable to yourself on a daily basis. And that's what goals do. If you don't make a goal, what you can do then is you go back and reevaluate why. But if you never set a date and you never have a deadline, you never know why you didn't hit the goal.
Yeah.
So anything else? I don't think I have anything else. I really get on my soapbox with this Craig Holiday. I mean, I wish he was still with Beachbody.
I know. Go back into the files, the time management one, if you struggle with this, and it's such a real struggle, that is such a great call. And honestly, like Kirsten said at the beginning of the call, at different points in my business, the call has meant different things. I've heard, or something spoke to me in a different way than it did when I started coaching. But all of these calls are so amazing to just listen to, plug into. I take notes with them. I can't work out and do personal development. It doesn't work for me, but I take notes and I think about it, and then I make those outlines, or I post my goal behind me. Like, I am ready to do it, and then I just get to work. You just need to find the motivation to be able to do it. I believe in every single one of you on this call. I know you have the DNA. You have to keep going, and you have to believe in yourself. You have to believe, I can do this. I can do this.
And plug your coaches into this call. Like, if this isn't part of your Coach Basics group, get these calls in there, because what it will do is continue to build their belief for the company and for network marketing. Because network marketing is so, it's non-traditional and people don't really understand. But he gives you 16 points in one of the other calls about why this is the best way.
Yeah.
And because when you have people telling you all the time, really, you think you're going to be successful at this, then you start to question it yourself. Like, oh yeah, maybe they're right. And then you listen to a call like this and you're like, oh no, they have no idea what they're talking about. Yeah. So
you're sometimes, like, oh God, I can do this.
Yeah. Well, and that's the other thing that I do too, guys, is when I listen to these calls is I take notes, and I'm able to, even when I'm giving people the coach opportunity call, I take points from these calls and give them to them about network marketing in general.
Yeah.
So it's really good to educate yourself, because then you just pay it forward to your teams. So,
cool.
So if anybody wants to share their 10, I think it would be awesome, like as a call to action.